The subject of today's talk is one of the more important I can give you, and it discusses a subject which you will initially have a problem with, because it's compound interest. You've got to understand about compound interest as you go through life. I'm going to use a very simple prop for this, and it relates to a story that you'll find many versions of, but the truth is what's important here. The story is told that the man who invented chess, one of the great games of old time, so enthralled the king that the king wanted to give him a great reward. And he, being a very clever gentleman, said, "It's very simple, Your Majesty. I've got a chessboard here, and I'm going to start at this end, and I'm going to put, I want you to give me 1 grain of rice. In the next square, I want to give you double that, give me 2 grains of rice. And the next square, give me 4, and the next square, give me 8. And then go through the chessboard." The king was mystified. How could somebody so brilliant be so stupid as being offered anything in the kingdom and he chooses rice on a chessboard? And then one of the king's wiser advisors said, "Your Majesty, if you agree to this, before this man is 2/3 through the chessboard, he will have more rice than your kingdom does. And before he gets to the last line, he will have more rice than has ever been produced in our kingdom in 100 years. It appears counterintuitive, but it happens every day. It's called borrowing and lending. The most important thing that impacts you on compounding involves length of time. If you borrowed $20 from somebody and gave it back to them tomorrow, it wouldn't affect you that much. But it does affect you when you're saving for retirement or when you borrow funds. Now, saving for retirement is a boring subject for you. None of us gave much thought to it. But the reality is, if you do it as soon as you start working, get a 401k, especially if your employer has a matching contribution, put it into a no-load S&P 500 ETF or mutual fund. Don't get fancy, don't market time, put it in, contribute every year, and don't touch it until you retire. And when you retire, you'll have a very handsome amount of money to ensure that you'll be well looked after, that your children will be well looked after, and you'll be able to help your grandchildren in their education. The wonderful thing is, apart from these contributions, you don't have to do anything, and it will grow tax-free if it's in a 401k plan. Please do this. It's important. Do it in your 20s and continue through the balance of your life and make sure it's waiting for you at the other end. Now that's all very nice, and you can be pleasantly surprised by the amount of money that you will have accumulated when you reach 50 or 55 or 60. What's much more dangerous is on the debt side, because the same compounding affects there. Now, most of you have contemplated, already have, or may use student debt. And this would be the first debt that you would probably incur in your life. Now, the amounts on average are not great. It's about $30,000. That's the purchase of a car. But there are some of you who will end up with much larger amounts and may find themselves in a position where you have difficulty paying this back. You really want to pay it back as soon as possible. It'll be a low interest rate, but it's a burden. It'll slow up your house purchase plans, even your marriage plans. Don't let it get too large. Pay it off early if you can. But I want to talk about something much more dangerous, and that is credit card debt. It amazes me that the banks can buy money for 0.5% or 1% right now. This wasn't always true, but we're in a period of low interest rates which may continue. These banks will then offer credit cards whose interest rate is 21%. This is a horrifying amount because 20% compounds really dramatically. You'll end up paying 2 and 3 times in interest what you borrowed in the first place. Pay off that debt as soon as you can. But even better advice is don't run it up in the first place. You really don't need a lot of the stuff that you buy, and those balances can really damage your welfare. So remember the chessboard, and don't be a slice of grain or rice halfway through the chessboard where you're never going to pay it off.